really like chirpy mood, but I have some samples I collected yesterday, and these are part of the look that I'm planning on making. So I'm just picking between each of them and what would work best, depending on how the fabric reacts to pleats and various different other factors. But the concept is birds, and I'm really excited about this because it's to do with the birds I'd spotted out in Madagascar. One being the drongo and the Madagascar bulbul. Madagascar bulbul, it would have this beautiful long looking eyebrow feather that's like pointed upwards. I just love that. And then just looking at the pattern and print itself, like this sort of combination of various different colours and movements and directions. So that's kind of where I'm taking it. But yeah, let's see. At the moment I'm playing around with zips and how I can be inspired by birds and my experience in Madagascar. So here I'm looking at this element of unravelling or unzipping, scaling, and it's this really playful placement of zips on the neckline, but thinking about the amount that I use and it being sort of intentional as like a feature. Getting my concept across is really important, particularly for this, because it's all about zips and YKK zips in particular, Japanese company actually, and they've got the most incredible different variations of zips, and most of the clothing that you wear actually use these, one because they're very reliable, they're very durable, they're really amazing quality. It's so innovative the way that they design some of their zips, some that use technology, others that have print on them. You can get the different materials made out of zips, like, nylon or polyester or recycled polyester or various different things. So I've decided to focus on something that feels a bit more rustic and would go really nicely with, let's say, a nice charcoal grey, or so this is actually silk, whereas this is pure silk twill, which has a more like satin feel to it. Something like this would look really nice with zips, I would think. Otherwise we have a nice blue, which would also go quite nicely. Just thinking about which would really complement that idea that I've come across. And the main focus is on getting my idea across in the way that I want and making it very clear. And then when it comes to how I'd like to model it on somebody, then I can decide to cast. And in the bigger scale of things, for instance, if you have a brand, then you would go through the casting phase and you would pick out a model as you please. But I guess as a student for the moment, I'm just sort of making use with what I have, contacting friends that are happy to help and that I know can execute it really nicely. So that's something to consider, as I like to say. But I'm really excited about this now. I'm starting to see it come together, and it's starting to make me very excited. And it's quite nice also picking up the camera and documenting some of this, so you can see this sort of studio style of work. It's nice. Right here I've got my steamer, which I'll come to use later. I've got the overlocker and the heavy duty machine, which is always a plus, comes in handy. And yeah, that's kind of it. A little bit of a mess at the moment. I've got the iron at the back as well, ironing some things, but I think that's all part of the journey. And doing something like fashion, it's not something that you just sit on you know, desk and work, and you know, you've got everything pieced together. Things are sort of allocated in various different areas and things, and in terms of equipment you need various different things, such as a sewing machine, an overlocker, pattern cutting table. There's a lot more to it that meets the eye, and yeah, I guess it's just early days and I'm excited. This is fun. So yeah, let's see where I go off and continue at with this zippy style of work. Yeah. So I'm just sewing on a exposed zip and just doing the step-by-step process of attaching it on at the end and then working my way up on either sides, one step at a time. So yeah, that's kind of what it's looking like just to begin with. I'm going to go sew it now. I just realised I've got it all wrong because that needs to touch. So here I've just experimented with the shape at the bottom of the hem. This is a circle, and I'm just noticing from creating these samples that this and this are pretty much similar. The only difference is that this finishes off as a circle, and then this here finishes off as more of a triangle, which I'll show you. See, there's that pointy bit that points here. But there's not much difference, and I think in terms of when it comes to hemming the bottom, it's going to be much easier to do it with a circle than the triangle, as long as I do the ease along the bottom, especially if I'm considering doing a satin or a silk material. So that's something I've made amends to, like that, you know, I've come to a conclusion. So yeah. So after it being hemmed, this is kind of where I was at with the pleats that will then be inserted into the front dress. And it came out actually really nicely. I decided to stick with the circular pleats as mentioned previously, just because it made it easier for the hemming process. I mean, what would have been even more easy if I just did it in a straight line, but I think if I had done that, I wouldn't have got this amazing definition as I've tried before. So I think it's really nice that I still have a lot of shape, and it still makes me think of the feathers and birds. That links to my concept, so happy with that. And essentially there's going to be the fabric here, and it's going to connect together in the middle, which is where the zip is going to be. So let's see where we go with that. So this is how it's looking at the moment. So what I'm doing is rather than putting the right sides facing together and put them as though it's already been made, so going opposite one another, and then I'm sewing it along about 0.5, let's say, and then the rest on the other side, when I flip it, will be sewn 0.7. So yeah, that's kind of the whole French seam, but there's different measurements that you can go by as long as it's sort of around that. Usually it's fine to sort of tweak the French seam measurements, which is good. So I'm going to go give that a sew. So this is what it looks like after I've just sewn it together, and I've now trimmed on the edges, so there's about 0.3, 0.4 left on the raw hem, and now I'm going to flip it and I'm going to sew about 0.7, 0.8, just so I can have a clean finish both on the inside and the outside. So I'm going to go press this open, and then I'm going to flip it around and start sewing once again. Of finishing off this garment, and I've just went to go pick up the final fabric. There's just some screwdriving things going on, but I'm just going to be showing you how I'm altering the last minute patterns. Wait, what did you just say? No, you said fast queen. No, yeah, I promise you I heard that.
And I promise you I didn't say that.
So what did you say? So as my final fabric, I'm using single crepe, and because it's so delicate and it moves around a lot, I've done that professional technique of putting dot and cross paper underneath and aligning it with the fabric gradient line, and then placing my pattern on top just to make sure things are more stable. So this is how it's looking at the moment, and here is where I've done the gradient line. This is where the gradient line is, this is where the fabric has been sewn, so it's not a straight line. And I've just aligned this line with this one, so however many centimetres it is from here to here, it's the same as from here to here, just to make sure everything is perfect when it comes to cutting it up. So this is the last or second to last day of sewing together the final garment. And what I've noticed from previous projects, or even just from this project, is that there is just no guarantee of things going, straightforward and smoothly when you're making the final thing. And that's because, one, you're doing it on a much bigger scale to your samples, and it feels like there's a bit more pressure when it comes to making the real thing, which is fun. But because the pattern cutting looks fairly easy, but when it comes to sewing it, a lot of the time you're sewing in corners or like pointy bits, and just getting the fabric to do as you please. And I'm just noticing when I'm sewing it together, it's just so there's this pointy bit, and it's supposed to go straight down, but it seems to be sort of wobbly and just not exactly it. So either what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpick it and try again and just see what works, or I'm just going to redo it again so I don't spend too much time doing it, because luckily I bought more than enough fabric, and it gives me the time to actually make the mistakes and try out it a second time, luckily. But yeah, let's see how it goes. I'm going to unsnip this and see what I can do. But because I've done a French seam on this pointy bit on this box pleat inside, it means I've lost a bit of fabric, so I can't exactly start from the very beginning. But that's fine. Let's see how we go. And I'm feeling a lot more motivated today, especially that we have the sun out. So I'm happy. Yeah, this is the last day, so let's see how we get along. But yeah, this is sort of a real clip of what goes down when you're making something. So always have a plan B and take your time with it, don't rush. I started actually making this fabric later in the evening, and I guess, oh, my cat's jumped out. You okay, baby? Oh, bless her socks. Let me check up on her. But yeah, let's see how we get along. But as I was saying, I feel much more motivated today, especially that the sun's out, and I know it's going to all work out. And it's a learning curve when you use different materials, that you haven't before. So I'm feeling really excited to get on with it today, especially with the sun out, and the natural lighting that comes in. It really motivates you a lot more. And that's, yeah, it's a learning curve when you're using materials or fabrics that you haven't before. And yeah, you learn a lot about the characteristics of it and how it likes to move. And it's always good when you do research on archival clothing, or let's say like you go into a store and you look at how pleats are made and how the hem is done, and like you sort of understand the nature of the material and the nature of the fabric manipulation, so you can then take it into your own projects and know exactly what you can do from then on. So yeah, exciting. This is so zoomed in, I can't believe it. Yeah. See you guys later. So this is kind of where we're at the moment. I've actually drafted up this final, just because the last one, there was a few faults and I just really want to perfect it. Luckily I have enough fabric, so we're just sort of working with it. I've actually added some fusing to, and then overlocked it to make a clean finish. And we're going to sew along here and here to create that box pleat. So as I'm doing the final garment, I'm just testing out a few seam pockets, and because I've kept the theme on the inside of the dress as like French seams, I'm just sort of following that same pattern with the pockets and just seeing what I can do. And I managed to do the side seam with French seams inside, and then where the pocket comes out, there's a French seam here, but I haven't yet tried out doing a French seam on the pocket itself, and I just think it would finish off really nicely. So I'm going to see if that works. Otherwise I'll just keep it like this and just overlock it as I've done here. And yeah, it's just, I've got to figure out which order it goes into. Like with normal seams, it's actually an opposite, not an opposite, but it's a sort of different steps to when you're doing it with a French seam, so on a pocket. So yeah, let's try it out. This might be a bit different even more, because now I've got to think about the pocket and the steps in order to achieve that. Yeah, let's see how we go. But the first step is sewing the bag onto each side and then trimming away, and then I'm going to sew 0.7 along the edge, And then I'm going to attach these together. And the last step is to close off the bags and like join them together so it becomes a complete 4. Okay, so I'm going to go give that a sew now. Because this fabric is quite delicate, what I've done is I've added 0.5 fusing on the edges of it, and this is where the zip is going to attach onto. And so I've marked exactly here so that the fusing isn't visible when it comes to sewing it together, where I need to place it. So here we've got bottom, so the fusing's at the bottom. You've got the top here, so I've marked it down with a heat pen that can sort of remove with the iron. So that's top. So if you look closely, I've placed it at the top, so you won't actually see it when it comes to sewing it together, because it's going to be sort of hidden, but it's going to add more structure and it's going to hold the zip upright. Otherwise I'm worried that it could sit quite sort of floppy, saggy, which is not what we want. So let's see. This is how it's looking with the zips. This will be on the back of the dress and will sit really nicely. I've put the fusing in, which is holding a bit better, and I might even add some wires into it, wiring, and then I'm just keeping myself busy with snacking, so that's keeping me going. Yum.